Yes!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. Doom is a game that literally has terrified so many people over the years. Now I'd argue that it's not as scary as it used to be, considering that it was limited by its graphics, but back in the day, this thing ran on an IBM or a Hewlett-Packard PC and everyone played it and they were kind of terrified. People would complain that video game violence stemmed from games like Doom. So today, let's take a look at the very original Doom, considering that Doom, the 2016 reboot, comes out today. The things that video games get away with nowadays is pretty damn crazy. We often take the hyper-realism and hyper-violence in our favorite games for granted, but things weren't always so explicit. Not that long ago, games were primarily thought of as kids stuff, and if adult themes and content did sneak their way into games, they were hardly recognizable thanks to the less than impressive graphic capabilities at the time. But the first-person shooter genre, which has existed in some way, shape, or form since the 70s, has always offered a bit more immersion and realism with its first-person perspective. But it was like you were in the game, man.
Whoa, nice graphics!
But FPSs didn't really gain massive popularity until the release of Wolfenstein 3D in 1992 from developer id Software. Apparently players loved shooting Nazis, and with their newfound notoriety, the guys at id wanted to create another shooter that, according to them, would be Wolfenstein times a million. That's a scary amount of Nazis, my friends. But as fate would have it, their new title had less to do with fascists and more to do with futuristic technology and big ol' scary-ass demons. On top of the shift in tone, the developers also wanted the new game to feature an extensive plot, multiple playable characters, and many other features. But all these lofty goals were ultimately dropped in favor of the simple and focused gameplay that would later become known as Doom. Doom's most striking features were its 3D graphics, which utilized innovative features such as full texture mapping, varying light levels, and, get this, even stereo sound. Look, I know this all sounds silly, but you have to remember that at the time, this stuff made players crap themselves in excitement. So excited that, despite the fact it was technically shareware, Doom went on to sell over 1 million copies, blasting its way into gaming history. The game was so popular upon its release in 1993 that it was estimated that Doom was installed on more computers than the new Windows 95. Damn, dude. And with its massive influence, Doom raised the bar for realism, immersion, and hardcore violence in video games. It would eventually spawn several sequels, a full feature-length film that everyone would probably rather you forget about, and most importantly, an entire genre of video games. Not to mention all the people complaining about this game in the 90s. Man, they were worried about the violence. If you've ever countered some terrorists, picked up a yearly edition of Call of Duty, or played a game of Griffball in Halo, then you have Doom to thank for it. With the now 2016 version of Doom coming out today, and the countless amounts of ports available for the entire Doom anthology at this point available everywhere, now is the perfect time to go to hell. I don't mean actually go to hell, I just mean like to visit hell, because that's the setting for Doom, but I'm not telling you guys to offensively go to hell. Ah, screw it. A lot of you guys are gonna think I'm saying it anyways. Fine, go to hell. All of you go to hell. Allow me to present a quote from John Carmack, Doom's lead programmer, that perfectly describes the game's story. Give me one moment here. Okay, story in a game is like story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important. End quote. So it should come to no one's surprise at this point that Doom's narrative is almost non-existent. Almost. After starting the game, you choose your difficulty and chapter, and then you're dropped right into the thick of it. No cutscene, no narration, no text explaining the premise, just utter carnage from the get-go. There are a few screens explaining some events as you progress through the game, but at the top, you're immediately kicked right into action. But if you happen to be one of those kids who reads game manuals, then you'd know a little bit more about why you're shooting everyone in sight, or everything, really. According to Doom's manual, players take control of an unnamed space marine who's been busted down to Mars duty for insubordination. Damn, Roasted. That's harsh. The military base in which he's stationed also houses the Union Aerospace Corporation, where scientists are conducting all kinds of cutting-edge experiments with teleportation technology in their attempts to create a portal between Mars's two moons, Phobos and Deimos. But of course, those experiments go horribly wrong, resulting in a massive portal being ripped wide open, allowing all sorts of hellish creatures to spill out like an evil piñata. You know, but with all the teleportation, interdimensional monsters, and the silent protagonist, Doom's premise is starting to sound a lot like another highly influential first-person shooter that I know of. Our nameless soldier, aka Doom Guy, is called to Phobos along with his military unit to investigate the carnage. His buddies leave him with nothing more than a pistol to protect himself before they head deep into the complex. Then, they all die within seconds. So it's up to our hero to find his way off this rock and stop the hordes of hell from running amok. And if he's lucky, he'll also find a better haircut. This is supposed to be the future, right? We can't afford better haircuts for our military men in the future. Just doesn't work out that way. Alright, it's fine. Propping my hands of it. Ultimately, Doom's premise is a pretty good one, since it facilitates all the brutality and action we could possibly need. It may seem a big cliche today, but back in '93, cautionary tales featuring demons from another dimension were a pretty new thing. I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate the small attempts at story that are present in Doom. Sorry, Mr. Carmack, but when I'm chainsawing someone in half, it's nice to at least know why I'm doing that. They just don't make games like Doom anymore. Not first-person shooters, those are everywhere. I'm talking about games that feature the unique look that comes when you combine detailed sprite work with low-poly three-dimensional environments. The kind of game that spends virtually no time helping the player understand what's going on. Doom is a relic from a bygone era of PC gaming, and while it's not the prettiest girl at the dance, it's got the charm that persists even till today. Doom's backgrounds and environments are just as cold and as brutal as the rest of the game. Everything from the drab interiors of the Phobos base to the nightmarish hellscapes of hell seems harsh and oppressive. This dark vibe is only exacerbated by the fact that the game's few assets are repeated over and over, making you feel like you're trapped in a maze or a prison. Even the verticality of the environments refuses to change. Most of the game takes place on a super flat surface. There are some lifts and stairs here and there, but for the most part, hell can only afford a single-story home. The game's background textures do eventually begin to change as you progress, but that change happens really slowly, resulting in levels feeling really similar to one another. Satan really needs to hire a decorator here. Have there been any really good decorators that have died recently and gone to hell? There's gotta be, right? Martha Stewart, is she okay? Oh, she's alive. I'm sorry, look, I know she went to prison, and then she got out, and then she made a book, and now she got a show. I figure she'd be in hell by now. Martha Stewart, let's go. Pay-per-view, let's go. UFC 201. Completionist versus Stewart. The sprite work in this game is iconic, and some of Doom's enemies have become synonymous with FPS baddies. These guys' unique animations and visceral death sprites are always cool to behold. And look, their bodies even stay on the ground after you murder them, leaving evidence of just how badass you are. Gaze upon the havoc that you have wrought. Things aren't exactly running at 60 FPS, but you know what? You don't need all that horsepower to create memorable monsters that are fun to fight, especially when their bodies are on the floor. Stay there! The music in Doom is always one of two things. It's either moody or spooky, or it's fast-paced and radical like something out of a Saban Super Sentai show. Real talk, put this track over some classic Power Rangers and tell me it doesn't work. Both types of musics kind of work, since there are a few moments in the game that genuinely are creepy, and many moments that are filled with fast-paced action. But no matter what kind of music Doom is hitting you with, you can bet it'll be super MIDI-fied. It sounds like someone is pouring their soul into a Casio keyboard. There's actually a wide selection of tracks in this game, but you may not notice it since it all uses the exact same MIDI instruments every time. Doom Guy may not be much of a talker, but all the enemies never stop grunting and snorting at you, which is kind of a good thing, thanks to stereo sound. You can often hear just where your foes are before you even see them. The same goes for the energy blasts that enemies fire at you. All of the game's sound effects sound pretty good, but just like the backgrounds, there aren't that many different samples. So prepare to hear some of the same things over and over and over again. There's virtually no subtlety to Doom. Everything is just as over the top as it appears. It's so immediate and unrelenting that it can often be a bit overwhelming. It's like one of those haunted mazes at amusement parks. You're willing to go inside to purposefully stress yourself out. And it's kind of what Doom is all about. An assault in all the senses that's kind of cool when you're ready for it. Corner cover? Hell no! Character customization? Oh, you wish! The ability to look up and down? What, you think this is a game? This is classic Doom! Doom ain't got none of that. All Doom's got is murder, brother, and plenty of it. Sure, you've got to use your brains to open some doors every now and then, but for the most part, we're spilling blood like we're getting paid for it. All the gameplay in the game is simple, and that's metal as f***. There are 4 different chapters or episodes in Doom, with each one of those containing lots of levels. Each level requires you to reach a destination somewhere on the map in one piece, which is easier said than done, you know, due to Satan's little helpers harassing you all the time. At the end of each level, there's a nifty little screen that details how much time you took, what percentage of your enemies you managed to slaughter, and how many secrets and items you found. Doom's shooting feels remarkably smooth, which makes it easy to see how so many people back in the day became addicted to Doom's gameplay. But it has to be said, not being able to look up or down is pretty weird, man. It's like being a dog.
What?
Dogs can't look up, dude.
Says who?
Gung Ho Al.
Just get back to the review.
All right. But you get used to the weirdness pretty fast. Plus, even though there are plenty of instances where your enemies are elevated above you, as long as you line up shots with them, you'll hit your mark. That's some magic bullet stuff right there. The same thing seems to apply for the distance too. Any shotgun that can ace a dude in a single shot from a sniper's distance is a special shotgun that you take home to your mom. Mom, look at my gun. It's tight. I don't care if I'm 12, Mom. Your character's movement feels responsive and actually pretty quick. If Doom Guy ever gets tired of being a Space Marine, he could nab a career as a wide receiver no problem, because he just moves through the game's corridors. This quick movement speed is just another aspect of the game that keeps Doom from feeling too much like a horror game, and more like an arcadey action shooter that it is. And even though Doom Guy starts out with a measly pistol, he ups his arsenal pretty quickly. In addition to the aforementioned shotgun, you also get access to a chainsaw, a rocket launcher, and some brutal-ass spiked knuckles. God, yes, it's so damn hardcore. So you're from hell? Welcome to Earth. Mars? Whatever. Get wrecked. I'm Will Smith. Welcome to Earth.
That's what I call a close encounter.
I can't talk about weapons in Doom without mentioning the BFG 9000. What does BFG stand for? Well, I'm glad you asked. Hold on one second, hold on. This is the one time in the show we're gonna uncensor the F word. You ready? It stands for this. It stands for big fucking gun, and that's exactly what it is. Censor goes on now, thank you. Once you find this thing in the late game, you can liquefy entire waves of bad guys with a single shot of its purifying green light of badassery. But in order to power your BFG and your other weapons, you're gonna need to regularly pick up ammo, which is scattered all over the game's floors. You'll be getting damaged a lot in this game too, so keep an eye out for items that replenish your health and armor. You gotta stay in the best shape possible if you want to fight some demons. The enemies in the game range from freaky to what in the god name is that? The lineup includes some of the FPS genre's most infamous foes, such as imps, who can swipe at you in close range or fire energy balls from a distance, cacodemons, which are hovering monstrosities that deal massive damage with their fireballs, and barons of hell, who look a little bit like Tim Curry from Legend. Their designs are awesome, and they all require strategies that are just unique enough to keep things from getting boring. As much as you might love your shotgun, it might not be the best tool for the job, depending on which of these dudes you're facing. Doom doesn't actually have that many bosses. In fact, it only throws bosses at you at the very end of some of its chapters. So since they're kind of rare, we'll save it for the spoiler-filled section in just a bit. Doom is so fast-paced and chock full of hairy-chested action that I almost feel like I should be pumping quarters into my console when I play it. It feels that much like an arcade title. It's more than a throwback to the early first-person shooters. It's a throwback to a style of play that we haven't seen from games in a while. The style that prioritizes delivering the most thrills per minute over anything else. Just look at this carnage. Woo! Boom, baby, go! Eat it! Go back to hell! You go back to where you came from! You stay there!
Gerard, we have gotta move on!
All right, but dogs can look up. I looked it up on Google. Wikipedia says otherwise. I know. Don't tell me they can't look up. After having survived the events on Phobos Base and traveled to Deimos via interdimensional portal, the Doom Guy takes the fight directly to the enemy's doorstep, Hell itself. Not to be confused with Hell in a Cell. That's WWE's little wrestling ring. Two very different things. And after taking out the demon who orchestrated the invasion, Doom Guy uses another portal to travel all the way back to Earth. Get it? Yeah. He went all the way to hell and back? This is where Doom's final chapter, Thy Flesh Consumed, begins. This chapter wasn't included in the original release of Doom, but was later added as a part of an updated version known as Ultimate Doom, aka the version we chose for this review. As a result, this final chapter's narrative is a little less fleshed out than the others, as unbelievable as that may be. Based on the look of backgrounds and locations, it's hard to tell if Thy Flesh Consume takes place in Hell or on Earth. But based on the ending of the previous chapter, the answer is probably a little bit of both. As the invasion continues, the Hell dimension begins to warp and merge with Earth. In any case, what follows are the hardest levels that Doom has to offer. After fighting through a final gauntlet of every enemy type that the game has to offer, Doom Guy is thrown into an arena that features tons of tough baddies, including another one of the game's only bosses and true final boss of the game, the Spider Mastermind. This thing looks like Krang from TMNT got fed up with barking orders at underlings and decided, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna beef up on my own. His shots will take you down very quickly, so your best bet is to keep the central pillar between the two of you to block his fire. Now, you could carefully take out all the enemies in the arena, leaving only you and Spider Mastermind for the final showdown. But since he goes down in 2 shots with a BFG, his final boss turns out to be a final joke. Yeah, that's right. If you don't want to go through the hassle of fighting this guy, just dodge the enemy's fire long enough to pop off 2 rounds and it's game over. You've been shell-shocked, Krang. Afterward, the center pillar will descend, allowing you to jump through it and end the game. The wall of text that follows explains that the Spider Mastermind must have sent some of his legions through the same portal that sent you to Earth. But unfortunately, things are looking pretty grim for the human race. The Spider Mastermind may be dead, but there are still plenty of other demons running amok on planet Earth. And what's even worse, they killed Doom Guy's pet rabbit Daisy. Aw, now you've done it, demons. If there's one thing you do not do, it's mess with a man's bunny. With the stage clearly set for the sequel, Doom Guy's gonna bring the pain. No one messes with the bunny. Now, Doom doesn't really have much going on in the unlockables department, but it does have lots of fun hidden secrets that you can hunt down. Every level has secret areas, rooms, and lifts that you can access by interacting with certain walls or finding certain entrances. They're definitely worth your time since they hold power-ups, ammo, shortcuts, and other goodies that will help you murder more efficiently. But while some of these secret areas are cleverly hidden, most of them are hidden behind walls that you'd never have any reason to believe are hiding secrets. No discoloration, no lighting hints, nothing. Finding them all without a guide would mean interacting with every single wall in the game and hoping to get lucky. So if you're trying to go for 100% rating, do yourself a favor and follow a guide. Trust me. Each of Doom's chapters also contains a secret level that can be accessed by finding a hidden exit in one of the secret areas in that chapter's levels. These are neat little secrets that actually give us more of the bloody action we all love. Good stuff. Unfortunately, Ultimate Doom, let alone Doom, doesn't really track your completion status, so beating the game 100% on the hardest setting is pretty damn impossible, and doing so does nothing for you. Damn you, Doom Guy! Damn you, Carmack! Damn you, Cypher!
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Doom isn't complicated at all, and if you're following a guide, even its secrets are a cakewalk, but things start getting really hairy when you play its harder difficulties. Hurt Me Plenty and Ultra Violence aren't even that bad, but Nightmare is exactly what it sounds like. In Doom, there are things like God Mode and unlimited ammo, but none of those actually work and can be applied to Nightmare Mode. It's not even that it makes the enemies unbeatable, and Doom Guy is made of paper. All of the damage values are exactly the same. What's awful about Nightmare Mode is that the enemies move way faster than normal, and they respawn constantly with dead aim precision. In the other difficulties, you could find comfort in knowing that as long as you cleared out a room, you were momentarily safe. But safety doesn't exist in Nightmare Mode, only pain and suffering. Since the item placements are different, and the fact that time isn't on your side, beating this mode requires you to develop entirely new strategies. And even though you get double the ammo in Nightmare Mode, I still found myself dying and dying and dying all the time. The bad guys, they never stop coming. In my playthrough of Doom, there were 138 deaths, 13 and a half hours of total playtime, 2 campaign playthroughs, one being on Ultra Violent and the other being Nightmare, 4 Spider Mastermind squashed, 8 chapters completed, and 1 Viking funeral for the best damn bunny a guy could ask for. Doom is a thrill ride, so anything that stops the thrills impedes the experience. Looking things up in a guide, whether that be to find the locations of secrets or to learn the most efficient nightmare mode strategies, isn't exactly appealing or exciting. If you're absolutely compelled to complete the game 100%, then by all means use a guide, but I wouldn't recommend even touching nightmare mode. However, if you're satisfied with just having a blast and shooting demons, then Doom definitely has a lot to offer. Just don't let your little brother or sister play this game. Granted, they probably have seen worse, and on TV or in movies. I don't know. The Doom argument is still kind of up in the air, but you'll walk away having some fun at the very least. Doom, or in this case Ultimate Doom, is a pretty good game. I'd say that it hasn't aged as well as I'd like it to have. You know, last time I played it, I must have been 4 or 5. Shame on my parents. Guys, come on. I'd say that for us older folk, we're going to enjoy the game for what it is. A nice throwback to what it used to be for us when we were kids playing FPSs, let alone scary space FPSs. But suffice to say, if you're a completionist, this game is not really worth completing. Unless you like things like God Mode and all that fun stuff. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finna play it.
Finna play it!
That's all time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Question of the day, what is your favorite FPS when you were a kid and you weren't supposed to be playing FPSs? Your parents know. That was the hand jive. I don't know. Now, if you excuse me, let's do a montage of the best of me dying. I died a lot in this game.